Okay.
Before they served us, I was walking around outside, and the peacocks were just running wild in the courtyard outside the restaurant. There's a better picture of it. Here you go, buddy.
Yo.
Jericho, the oldest city in the world. That's what they say.
Okay. Good enough.
Now, whether it's so or not, I don't know.
Good enough. Good enough. Good
But
enough.
that's what they want us to
Good
do.
enough. Good enough. Good enough.
Nice.
It's just a architectural thing. Okay. The thing Canaan held up for you, the headgear, that's me wearing it right after I bought it. There is a shyster standing right here that was bound and determined I was going to buy this headdress. And I was bound and determined I wasn't fixing to pay him what he was asking me for. He wanted $15 for that thing. Well, I had done seen them in the marketplace for 10. And so I told him no, $10. Well, he wanted to argue with me. And so then I told him, okay, $5. Well, he wanted to argue some more, and I started walking towards the bus. By this time, everybody's done gotten aggravated with me, and they've got on the bus. And I'm about to get left, and he knows it. And so I start walking towards the bus. All of this began like back here. And he says, oh, let me just put it on you. You look a marvelous, mister. And he actually told me I was beautiful one time.
Okay.
You give him 15.
Brother Evans says, and then you gave him 15. The upshot of the story is, he kind of got I guess he finally got the impression, well, he's not going to give me, and I got it for $5.
I think he gave it to you.
Okay.
There, Mr. Camel, there's one of those that I got on, but I don't think this is him. That's more of the Judean wilderness area. That's kind of a clearer picture about the stones where we spoke of where Jesus was tempted.
Yes, sir.
Greenhouses. This is the first shot of the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea almost seems to come out of nowhere. You round a corner, and over here, as we were traveling south, over here, there's a point, and my shot didn't get it, but there's a point that gets narrow, and then it just opens up. The Dead Sea is the lowest place on the face of the earth. There is no greater concentration of oxygen anywhere on this planet. I will tell you this. Now, all up and down this coastline, nobody lives at the Dead Sea.
No.
You don't pass a town. You pass little resort areas where there's a hotel. And there may be a 7-Eleven or a Minute Mart, something like that. But there is no downtown Dead Sea. But while I was there, I felt better than I felt in 10 years. It utterly amazed me. I felt like I could tackle the world. I called my wife, or she called me, I forget which, that night. You know what she asked me? What have you been drinking? I promise you, I had some wine while I was over there, but I had not had any that day. And I never had more than half a glass any day. But I had not had a sip of wine. I was almost giddy, is the best way I know to explain it. It was like finding the fountain of youth.
Never heard him sound like he felt better.
Well, she told me we've been married 10 years. She said, I've never known you to even sound like this. What do you think this stuff is? That's salt.
Saline.
That is pure salt, just like what you see on the table. Just because it turns blue here, that's only from the water and the sun doing its work with the coloring. It is just as white out here as it is right there underneath the water. It's the depth of the water that takes away the color, not the lack of salt.
Right.
You couldn't sink in there if you wanted to, could you?
You absolutely will not sink in there.
High buoyancy.
You can make yourself go under. They don't recommend it. Because they don't recommend you allowing into your nasal passages. But the most you're going to go under is about body depth deep. You're not going to dive to the bottom. If you're out 6 feet, you will not dive to the bottom.
Not that good.
Yeah. This is more of the Dead Sea. On the other side of this is the southern part of Jordan. This is a natural oasis there. This is not the resort where we stayed, but there are spas here where you can go and pay money and relax in their baths and so forth. The Dead Sea is positively beautiful. Masada. Masada is kind of an oddity in history. It is not recorded in the scriptures. It's not recorded in the Talmud, in the Jewish scriptures. And really the only acceptable record that we have of Masada, as far as a written record, is Flavius Josephus. Masada was a stronghold where Jewish zealots, if you will, that was the last revolt against Rome, and that revolt was squelched. Whenever the temple in Jerusalem fell in 70 A.D., this was the last bastion of hope. This was the last place they had to run. And there had been an encampment, a settlement on top of Masada for centuries. But when it was all said and done, there were 960, according to Josephus, gathered Jews there. And the Romans' 7th Legion army came and with their battering rams, let me go forward where you can see kind of what I'm talking about. And that's just what I'm telling you. You ain't got to worry about reading that. Let's see. Okay. This is the top. I was hoping I had. Okay, just take my word for it. Masada's on the top of a mountain. It's a natural plateau on top of a mountain. This is part of the excavated fortress of Masada. There were 960 Jews, men, women, and children, encamped here, barricaded in. If you could, and you will in a moment, I know I've got something here. If you could look over this and look down, it is a fairly sheer drop. The Roman forces didn't have an easy job of it, getting up there. But the settlement here, they could look out and see every advance they made. And they knew without a shadow of a doubt that it ain't going to be easy for them, but they're coming. And so when it became increasingly apparent that their stronghold was not going to be strong enough, that the Roman battering rams were going to do their job and that they were going to be overtaken. First of all, when they were overtaken, many of the men would likely have been killed. Those that weren't killed would have been taken as slaves, and the women and children would have been prostituted out. And so the leader of the group there, Josephus records that he determined that they weren't going out that way, that rather than fall to the hand of a godless enemy, that they would take their own lives. Now, in the Jewish tradition, suicide is a big no-no. But they viewed it, the group did, as being the higher road than falling into slavery under Roman authority, and harsh slavery at that. So 960 kind of makes Jonestown, Guyana look like a small deal, doesn't it?
They're very similar.
960 took their own lives. They murdered the women and children first, and then the men. How do we know this? Because there were 2 women and 5 children that actually hid and survived that and lived to tell the history And that's how Josephus got it to record it. These are all, another interesting thing. It's been fairly recently, 1970 something I want to say. But
Yom Kippur?
Huh?
Yom Kippur, 73?
An excavation was done here where the bodies of 26 individuals, men, women, and children, were discovered still intact. And they have been buried atop the plateau.
Oh, man.
This is all just portions of the excavation. This is looking out from the top of Masada. That's the Dead Sea. But this is miles. Miles. This is coming into the resort at the Dead Sea where our hotel was. I believe that is me. I'm not certain. My roommate was taking these pictures, Elder Jake Butch, and Brother Jake didn't know how to work my camera. And so I can't even remember who this is. That's one of our group there. But when I tell you that water's cold, this is Tyler Campbell here. I know who that is. And when I got out there, and I do think that is me, I was absolutely, I couldn't speak. I was shivering and my teeth were chattering. And Brother,
You okay, brother?
Brother Tyler Campbell said, Brother Hugh, just commit and do it. And so I did. And I just laid back and there I was.
Well, did you make the trip to the Dead Sea in one day, or
Oh yeah. From the Sea of Galilee it was.
you didn't spend the night there?
Oh yeah, Yeah, we spent the night on the Dead Sea. Yeah. And then the next day we headed out for Jerusalem. That is me floating, I know that much. There's my bald head.
Mm-hmm.
This is the hotel at the Dead Sea. Everywhere that we stayed was positively beautiful. The lowest rating of any one of the hotels was 4-star.
Right.
This was a 5-star resort. That's my dinner plate. The food was absolutely phenomenal. I wish I could tell you what all that stuff is, but it was good.
Looks like it.
This is going out to the pool at the resort, and that's from the outside. That night, Brother Jake Clutch and I were roommates, and Brother Jake turned in early every night. He's an early bird, and I'm a late bird. I stay up at night. And so after Brother Jake went to bed, I go walking every night, and this particular night is the only time I actually got scared while I was over there, as far as scared for my personal safety.